My name is Daniel Brooks. I am 67 years old. For 42 years, I worked in industrial maintenance and plant operations. Noise, heat, pressure, deadlines, responsibility. I was never famous, never rich, just reliable. The kind of man people called when something critical stopped working. And then, one day, I stopped working. Not because I failed, not because I was fired. I retired.
Happy retirement, Dan.
Thank you all very much.
People clap at retirement. They bring cake. They print banners. They give speeches about loyalty and dedication. On my last day, the break room was decorated with balloons and old photos from when I had more hair and less patience. My manager called me the backbone of the department. A young technician said, "Whenever things got complicated, they sent me to you." Everyone applauded. I smiled in every picture. But inside, something felt wrong. Because while they were celebrating my years of service, I was quietly losing my function. For decades, my life ran on a fixed schedule. Alarm at 6:30, coffee, boots, tools, gate, check-in, solve problems, make decisions, fix what others couldn't. Every day, someone needed something from me, and that need gave weight to my existence. Routine wasn't boring. Routine was purpose-wearing work clothes. When I emptied my locker that final afternoon, the sound of metal echoing hollow hit harder than I expected. That small box had carried my readiness. Spare gloves, backup flashlight, folded notes, emergency contacts. When it became empty, something inside me felt the same way. I walked to my truck with a watch in one hand and a plaque in the other. For 42 years, I left work tired but necessary. That day, I left appreciated but replaceable. That difference cuts deep. The next morning, my eyes opened at exactly 6:30. No alarm. My body still believed I mattered somewhere. I sat up automatically and reached for my phone, expecting overnight messages. Nothing. Just silence. My wife smiled and said, "Go back to sleep. You're retired." But rest without effort felt uncomfortable, like receiving credit without earning it. I lay back down, but my mind kept standing. The first week felt like a reward. I attacked the house like it was a new project site, cleaned the garage, organized shelves, fixed hinges, sorted tools, made lists, completed them. Productivity felt safe, familiar. But by week 2, my lists were shorter. By week 3, I started inventing tasks. By week 4, time no longer felt like a gift. It felt like a weight. No one tells you this clearly. When your work stops, your feedback stops. No daily proof you're useful. No system that depends on you. No one saying, "Good thing you're here." For years, I complained about constant demands. Now I missed being demanded. A sentence started forming quietly in my mind. Maybe my usefulness retired with me. Work had given me identity beyond my name. I wasn't just Daniel. I was lead tech Daniel, the troubleshooting guy, the calm voice during breakdowns. Experience made people listen when I spoke. Retirement removed the title, but my mind still expected the respect attached to it. That mismatch hurt. I began going to a roadside diner every morning, just to be around movement. Same booth, same black coffee, same window view. A group of retired men met there daily. They joked a lot, but their humor carried something underneath it. One said he drives around after breakfast so he doesn't get in the way at home. Another laughed that his dog now gives him his daily schedule. Everyone laughed, but it wasn't joy. It was protection. I recognized it because I felt it too. Men trying to guard dignity after losing structure. Slowly, I started changing in small ways. I shaved less, stayed in sleep clothes longer, delayed showers. My posture softened. My voice lost authority. Motivation didn't collapse dramatically. It leaked slowly. One evening, my wife asked gently, "Are you feeling low?" I answered too fast. "No, just adjusting." Fast answers often hide slow discomfort. Sleep changed. When I worked, I slept deep because I was used, physically and mentally. After retirement, I woke at night restless, energy with nowhere to go. One afternoon, I stood in front of the mirror and asked myself out loud, did my value end, or did my role change? I didn't like that I didn't know the answer. I began replaying my career in my head. The early mistakes. The first time someone trusted my judgment over a manual. Training nervous newcomers who later trained others. Catching small warning signs that prevented big failures. That wasn't just labor. That was transferable judgment. Employment had ended. Capability had not. But capability without direction becomes doubt. Then something small happened, something that changed everything. A neighbor knocked on my door and asked if I could just take a look at a vibration problem in his workshop drill press. I almost said no. I'm retired now. Instead, I went. I listened to the sound, checked alignment, tightened a loose mount. 12 minutes later, the noise was gone. He said, "You saved me hours." Saved me hours. Not salary, not title, impact. I walked home thinking about that sentence all day. Usefulness doesn't disappear when employment ends. It disappears when contribution stops. That thought stayed with me. A few days later, I drove to a small vocational training garage near my house. Young adults were learning mechanical skills there, some because college wasn't possible, some because hands-on work fit them better. I walked in and told the instructor, "I have 40 years of maintenance experience. I don't want salary. If I can help your students avoid mistakes, I'm available." He looked unsure. Then he said, "Come tomorrow." The first day I just observed. Teaching is different from doing. I watched how they guessed instead of measured, rushed instead of listened, forced instead of aligned. On the second day, one student kept stripping bolt heads by applying force at the wrong angle. I showed him how to seat the tool fully, adjust wrist position, and let leverage do the work. It worked instantly. He looked at me like I'd revealed a secret. Why didn't anyone explain it like that? Because experience speaks differently than instructions. I started going 3 days a week, then 4. Soon, when something went wrong, the students said, "Ask Dan." 2 simple words, "Ask Dan." And just like that, something inside me stood back up. I wasn't on payroll. I had no office, no title, but I had impact again. I taught them how machines talk through sound, heat, vibration. I shared real failure stories, expensive ones. I explained how small details prevent big disasters. And something surprising happened. I began learning again too. One student showed me a diagnostic app that analyzed vibration patterns digitally. I didn't understand it at first. Years ago, I might have dismissed it. Instead, I decided to upgrade myself. Learning was frustrating. Wrong buttons, lost files, password resets, moments I felt old. But I created a rule for myself. Difficulty is not disrespect. It is training. Slowly, I improved. I joined online forums, read discussions from younger technicians worldwide. I brought new insights back to the garage. The students were shocked when the old guy introduced updated methods. Learning didn't reduce my authority. It refreshed it. At home, my family noticed changes before I did. My wife said, "You're walking faster again." Purpose changes posture. I also became more present. When I worked full-time, I was often physically home, but mentally reviewing problems. Now I listened without hurry. Conversations deepened. I became available in a way I had postponed for decades. One day, my grandson brought a small robotics kit and asked for help. I almost said it wasn't my field. Instead, I said, "Let's figure it out together." When it finally worked, he smiled and said, "Grandpa, you don't quit." That mattered more than any plaque I ever received. Not every day became perfect. Some mornings, emptiness tried to creep back in, especially on days without structure. So I built structure. Monday to Thursday, training garage. Friday, neighborhood help day. Saturday, learning and updating. Every day, physical movement. Structure protects dignity. Drift destroys it. On Neighborhood Help Day, I offered small repairs and safety checks for free. Soon, other retirees joined. An electrician, a carpenter, a plumber. Contribution became social. Social became energizing. One trainee named Marcus almost quit because he struggled with precision measurement. He believed he wasn't built for technical work. I told him about my worst mistake, a wrong tolerance assumption that caused a shutdown and public blame. Skill isn't talent, it's corrected repetition. He stayed. 6 months later, he passed certification. When he shook my hand, he held it longer than normal. That was legacy. I wrote 3 rules on a card in my workshop. Help one person every day. Learn one thing every day. Move your body every day. These replaced my old job schedule. Here's what I've learned. Retirement is not the reward of doing nothing. It is the opportunity to choose meaningful doing. Endless leisure sounds attractive, but humans are not wired for permanent inactivity. We are wired for contribution. I don't earn a paycheck now, but I receive gratitude. I don't hold a title, but I hold influence. I don't run operations, but I grow people. If you can think, you are not finished. If you can guide, you are not finished. If you can encourage, you are not finished. If you can share experience, you are not finished. 3 years ago, When I drove out of that factory gate with a watch and a plaque, I believed my contribution story was over. I was completely wrong. That was not the end of my usefulness. It was the day usefulness changed address, from payroll to purpose.